The police commissioner says she's frustrated at seeing repeat young criminals walking free from court, saying many don't respect anyone at the moment, including police. Her comments come as new statistics reveal just how many young offenders are being released on bail.
These are just some of the cars reported stolen across Queensland over the weekend. Desperate owners posting to social media asking for help.
What can you say to the community after another weekend where people are on edge?
So, yes, it is that small cohort, and yes, they are offending more and are actually using a lot more violence.
The problem, according to criminologist and former detective Terry Goldsworthy, is youth criminals no longer fear police.
That just goes to some of the issues we have in terms of lawlessness almost appearing in Queensland.
Well, this cohort don't respect anyone at the moment. So it's not just the police, it's how they treat, the public, it's how they treat each other.
But the police commissioner says striking a balance between deterrence and rehabilitation is tough.
I think there is a frustration, definitely, because we're talking about some children that we have arrested time and time and time again, but it is a vexed and complex issue.
New data obtained by 4BC Radio reveals how many young offenders are being released by courts. In the 11 months from last July to the end of May, there were 6,048 bail applications for juveniles. 78% were granted, with 4,746 released. 21%, more than 1,200, were kept locked up, while a small number of applications were withdrawn before being heard by a court.
There was a time when young crims ran from the law. In Queensland today, they run at it.
The police are out there doing their best, and I think, it's a good reminder for criminals out there that if you get caught, you will do the time.
Queensland's police commissioner says the state's youngest and most brazen criminals are fearless and not just of police. Several children have been arrested, including a 14-year-old who was found with a gun.
Teenagers showing off firearms for likes on Instagram from the luxury of an Audi they allegedly stole.
I show some guns. More guns? Yeah. What's good, guys?
A real rifle was used to rob a string of service stations on Saturday night before 4 teens, as young as 14, were arrested and charged.
Well, this cohort don't respect anyone at the moment. So it's not just the police.
Former cops say Queensland has descended into a state of lawlessness.
Only about 6 months ago, the government committed to reintroducing the breach of bail. So it went these many years that the crime just grew out of control.
It's difficult for the police on the ground to deal with these people now because they're just so brazen in turning around and challenging the police.
Queensland police numbers have dropped in the past few years, while youth offender rates have risen. The opposition blames soft crime laws.
We must unshackle the judiciary and remove detention as a last resort, and we have to get serious about early intervention.
But thousands of young criminals have been arrested since Christmas in high-visibility patrols, and the Premier says the recruitment pipeline looks promising.
We are actually very encouraged with the number of applications we're now getting from around Australia and from overseas.
Maintaining Queensland's youth crime laws are some of the toughest in the country.
You've kind of let the criminal genie out of the bottle, albeit a youth. How are you going to get it back in?
Bianca Carboni for 10 News First.
Holding a gun and making demands.
Order.
2 teens in Ascot allegedly in the middle of a crime spree. The getaway car and Audi stolen from Helensvale. Over 3 hours, the group is accused of 3 separate armed hold-ups across the southeast, fearless in the face of the law.
They are offending more and are actually using a lot more violence. This cohort don't respect anyone at the moment. So it's not just the police.
4 teens were arrested, the youngest 14. A weekend of anarchy stretching to Townsville, just the latest in a spiral of youth crime.
It's very serious to the extreme. These are high-end crimes. People are dying.
2 former officers say the government's weakening of bail laws led to a culture shift. Now attempts to get the genie back in the bottle are failing.
Only 6% of youth offenders who stole vehicles went to jail. So increasing the maximum sentence is of no use.
Dr Terry Goldsworthy taking aim at pursuit laws and a softer drug approach, rejecting claims it's a small troubled cohort alongside former long-time cop Jim Keogh.
The numbers are up there at nearly 400 repeat offenders. You've got to remove them from mainstream community. It's just that simple.
Dr Goldsworthy wants to see the same hardline approach taken with bikies in 2014 enforced on young offenders, with a dedicated police task force to send a strong message to hardline youth criminals.
I'm confident that the police are well resourced and that they're very focused and committed to what they're doing.
I've been in policing for 40 years and I know that the police at this day and age are doing more than ever.
But with yet another boast of bail from the Sunshine Coast, questions remain on whether it's enough. Jacqueline Robson, 7 News.